morning, everyone. We're going to start our meeting for February 4th with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'd like to have a moment of silence for Bill Hager, two-term commissioner in LaPorte County, who passed away. This is for his family. Thank you. We'll begin our meeting with the call to order. And roll call, please.
Dr. Cora.
Present.
Mrs. Matias.
Present.
And Mr. Mrzinski. The quorum is present.
Thank you. Next, we want approval of the minutes from the January 15th meeting. Dr. Cora?
Madam President, agenda is the next item.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's consider the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, number 5, consider approval of the January 15th, 2020 minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have consideration of claims. Mrs. Winsky?
Thank you. We have payroll ending January 17th, 2020 in the amount of $1,512,882.32 and payroll ending January 31st, 2020 in the amount of $1,262,045.24. And we have miscellaneous claims in the amount of $1,759,036.20.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the claims as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Cora. I'll second that motion. Motion has been made to approve, and it's been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's move on to public comment. Before we have public comment, I've been asked to remind members of the public, if I can find my little reminder sheet, about our rules for public comment. We've encouraged transparency in our processes, and we really want the public to be involved. But there are some rules of civil discourse and also some rules regarding confidentiality and privacy for our employees. So I want to refresh everyone's memory very quickly about public comment and what the Commission passed in our resolution, which was intended to encourage public comment. This board strongly believes in hearing the views of citizens residing in LaPorte County, and we seek to adopt a policy to encourage effective and efficient use of public comment and input to aid us in our decision-making on various topics. The following guidelines will assist the Commission in hearing public comment while conducting effective meetings. Public comment will be listed on the agenda not only at the beginning of every meeting, but will also be received before the board votes on a resolution or an ordinance that appears on the agenda. Each person is asked to give their name and address when addressing the board. As a routine matter, public comment will be confined to 3 minutes per person. However, the presiding officer may, at his or her discretion, permit a longer time period for a given comment if he or she believes it is in the public interest for a normal time period to be extended. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. The presiding officer may prohibit comments which are deemed frivolous, repetitive, or harassing. The presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate a person's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant, and may request any individual to leave the meeting when that person behaves in a manner that is disruptive to orderly conduct of that meeting. Number 6, no person may present orally or discuss at any meeting of the board any charges or complaints against individual employees of the county, department heads, professional advisors, or elected officials without first presenting such charges or complaints to the board through the presiding officer in writing, signed and verified by the group or persons making the complaint or charge. Remarks by any person addressing the board which reflect adversely upon the character and motives of any other person or group are out of order. Any attacks in the form of inferences, insinuation, and innuendos against the character or motives of any person are out of order. As a board, we believe strongly that we as elected officials, our department heads, our professional advisors, and our employees are all servants of the voting public, and that we benefit by a wide range of views and input as we deliberate and consider important issues confronting our county. The guidelines above are designed to enhance orderly and efficient receipt of public comment, while at the same time ensuring a level of civility and decorum appropriate for a properly conducted business meeting of this board. So, in summary, we want to encourage civil discourse. We welcome comments and disagreement is okay. This is democracy, but we do believe that our employees have a right to confidentiality. That if there is a complaint against an employee, there's a process and there's a chain of command. Coming here first when you have a complaint about someone is not appropriate. I don't know, Mr. Friedman, if you want to add anything, but certainly you've been the subject of some very pointed comments in some of our recent meetings, and that's not the point of public comment. Is to make without us preparing or knowing what you're talking about to make scurrilous comments. So I just wanted to make sure that we review that.
Thank you. And I think Commissioner President Matias, I think you stated it well. I mean, that was the reason I think that you all put in the policy that there should be no charges or complaint against any employee until such time as such charges are directed through the presiding officer in writing, signed and verified by the person or group making the complaint. That way it allows you all an opportunity to investigate, my office an opportunity to investigate, and then to be able to report back. So that's it's just good practice, and I think that's why you adopted it at the start of the year.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that being said, let's open our public comment. This is the public comment at the front end of the meeting, so if you have something to say, you don't need to wait until the end of the meeting, which is, I know in some places it's kind of annoying. You have to wait through all of the process and financials to make your comment. So if anyone from the public wishes to speak, this is a good time to do so. Any members of the public? Didn't mean to discourage you with my with reading the policy. Anyone from the public wish to speak at this time? Last call. Anyone from the public wish to speak? All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to department head comments.
Madam President, can I make a request? Mr. Sobecki from the Parks Department has another engagement that he needs to attend, so he wanted to address his agenda item, which is under new business 13C. So if it's okay with you, we can address it at this time.
Okay, great.
Thanks. So this is a request for a signature to approve a contract for the bioswale at Creek Ridge County Park. We got a grant through the DNR to do this project, and the match is a donation as well. So I believe it was sent to Mr. Friedman and just requesting a signature so we can move forward with the design and build of this project.
Great. Mr. Friedman, any comments?
Yes, we're comfortable with the form and format and would recommend approval.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the signature that the Parks Department needs to move forward on their grant. We have a motion. I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. A motion carries. So thank you, Mr. Sobecki. Anything else you want to speak to about the Park
No,
Department?
I mean, I gave pretty extensive update last time. So I will say that we had our award ceremony last night at our park board meeting. So the organization of the year was the building trades from the LaPorte Slicer building trades class of this year. They're helping build the shelter out at Lure for the grant. Our volunteer of the year was Todd and Trina Walsworth from the bike stop. They've been helping with the redesign of the bike routes and also with reopening our mountain bike trails at Red Mill County Park. And then lastly, our Park Service Award went to our maintenance supervisor, Bob Goethals, who has been instrumental in this grant project at Lure and designing and building the shelter and then the restroom and all of that as well. So, but
Great. Thank you, Jeremy. Those are important updates. And our congratulations to Bob, and make sure that he knows how much we appreciate his extra efforts.
Do you have a copy of that? Or just...
Thank you. You need this right now, huh?
No, I can get it right here.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. Any other department heads who wish to speak at this time?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Here, Steve Alt, Director of 911. You recovering well?
I am. Thank you for asking.
I'm here today. I've already spoken to you guys previously about our upgrade for the 911 equipment. And I have done a little bit of my due diligence, and I've already kind of created a mutual understanding with Porter County. I've submitted that to Mr. Friedman, as well as the Porter County director himself, who has reviewed it and agrees to it, and he's going to submit it also, the final copy, to their attorney for them to sign. In doing so, though, that was the first step. I had to procure some financing for some funds for this project, so I am asking you, I'd like your permission to approach the council for these funds. I do have the numbers if you'd like them.
Yes.
The Vesta 911 upgrade would be, and this is a state-of-the-art, there's one of them, there's many features, but one of the best features is if there's a power outage through the Wi-Fi, through the internet, through the Cat5 cable, power was still supplied to the unit. So in the rare event that we would have the batteries go out, our generators go out, and all commercial power, we're still going to be able to take 911, which is pretty interesting in itself. That's just one of the many features. For a 3-year plan, that's going to be $242,931.42. We are allowed to use surcharge for that that type of project. The second thing is the Wi-Fi paging, fire paging system. We are using the T1s, and I've already kind of discussed this with you guys already. We did have a really, I don't want to call it serious, but we had an outage from New Year's Eve where the fire departments were receiving these weak pages, and they were pretty frustrated, and we were frustrated, and we got our vendor out to remedy that situation. But with this Wi-Fi system, it's not only going to eliminate that problem, it's also going to save us money because we pay monthly to Frontier for those T1 lines. We also pay for maintenance for those T1 lines, and we would not be paying for that anymore once we go into the system. That cost of that system is $78,242.72. That includes a maintenance agreement where they would 24/7 monitoring. So if the system does have an outage, currently the way it works now, when there's an outage, I see the outage, I must call the vendor, we must get services out there to fix it. They would monitor that, so they would actually fix the system before we even know it, or make those repairs. It's been tested in the Chicago area. They've had a 1% outage, is 99% success rate. The third thing I'm asking to approach the council for is I was almost going to bring you guys our chairs and have you sit in them, but I didn't want any more injuries on you two, as our chairs are horrible in the room. And you sit in a couple of them, you feel like you're in a rocket ship ready to launch. So I would like to buy new chairs for the center. The cost of those chairs would be, for 8 chairs, would be $17,221.68. And those are the 24/7 chairs. Some of them rated up to 400 pounds, and some of them would be rated up to 300 pounds. And that's...
Madam President, I had a couple of questions.
Yeah,
now, you mentioned about on the first item that there could be a surcharge. Can you expand on that?
We're funded by surcharge through user fees,
Okay.
Through your phone bill. So when you see that 911 user fee, the state disperses those to us, and that's how we're funded, partially. But there are certain areas that we are allowed to use those. It's very specific. The auditor is on it. I have a go-to person. We can't buy pencils with it, but we can buy 911 equipment with it.
Okay.
So currently, what you're asking for $242,942, I believe it was. What's the current? Is that a one-time fee or?
That would be a one-time fee.
Okay.
There are options on that, but I have not an extended warranty. That fee would be 3 years of 24/7 maintenance plan. On top of that, now that is one thing is our 911 equipment has to be upgraded as far as software, and that's free. But we are mandated by the state. We are at version 4. We need to be at version 7.
Right.
7 is the latest we're allowed with our current configuration. 7 is the latest version that equipment is capable of having. Okay, and we're going to have to take the center down. That's why we need this agreement with Porter County in order to just 911 in order to make this software upgrade. To me, it makes sense that we do the hardware upgrade at the same time. Now, the hardware upgrade has not been mandated by the state yet. Will it happen? Yes. Will it happen in 2021? We don't know. 2022? We don't know. Eventually, the state will mandate us to go to this new equipment, which would cause another 8-hour shutdown of the 911 center.
Madam President, I have another question. So after 3 years, you still have the equipment, but the maintenance contract is only for 3 years,
yes.
And then you would have to renew the maintenance contract, and that would be an expense, but not as much as this one.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And then I guess Mrs. Winsky, I would have a question about the user fee and being able to use that. Is there money in that account?
Oh yeah, they have over $1 million in there right now. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And then the chairs, I can't tell you how much I agree upon that. I have been in the center and I have sat in your chairs, and our employees sit in chairs for an entire shift, and their bodies we need to take care of them. Otherwise, we're paying in different ways, including absenteeism for sore backs and other things. So
that chairs does include a 10-year warranty on those chairs as well.
Okay, I was going to say, make sure you're buying really good, bad chairs it's throwing good money after bad, so.
And not to mislead, we cannot buy chairs with user fees. We will have to.
Yes, I presume that. Okay.
Madam President, I make a motion to allow Mr. Ault to approach the council for these 3 items.
I would second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you, Mr. Ault.
Madam President, I will note too for the record, we'll have the MOU that Mr. Ault has presented for presentation at the next commission meeting between LaPorte County and Porter County.
Yeah, I did read that. Thank you for mentioning that.
You bet.
Thank you. Mr. Lewandowski.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Larry Lewandowski, Director of Facilities. I wanted to come in today and just give you a little update of where we're at for this year, where we're heading. Last year, as you know, we tried to concentrate on life safety issues that we had and a lot of mechanical issues we had within the buildings. This year, our goal is going to be a lot of the energy savings that we can have in the buildings, still covering life safety issues and mechanical issues, but coming up in the next couple of weeks, we're going to get started in the courthouse. We're actually going to do a blown insulation throughout the 3rd floor to try and keep some of the heat that we're losing throughout the building. That's going to start like so. We're going to try and get the R value up. It'll keep us at a better constant heat during the winter time, and we won't lose our cooling also in the summertime. We're also starting in at the Hyler building and also in the courthouse. We're going to start working on our lighting. We're changing over to LED lighting, which will help on costs with the NIPSCO bills and stuff. We're also going to put in some sensors in the bathroom so that when people are walking in and out, we'll be able to, lights will go on and off. We won't have to worry about coming around and spend a lot of time with that. Those things are going to be done in phases. We're going to work at the Juvenile Detention Center, the Correction Center. We're going to start doing some of the outer lights over there right now. But we're going to work this in phases and utilize what we have inside of our budget to try and get it done without having to ask for any money. So we'll do it in about 3 phases to do this. The other goals that we have going on this year are our EMS projects. Everybody knows we've got the LaPorte project that's going on right now. It's on schedule. Drywall will be finished this week. Mechanicals are all roughed in and done. They're looking at doing underground on the outside within the next week or so. So we're moving along really good at the LaPorte base. Hopefully we're going to have that done before our projected date is our goal. Michigan City, we met over there yesterday with Andrew, and I think we've come up with a good plan. We've got estimates in now. We're reviewing the estimates for the Michigan City base, and our goal is to get something started there within the next month and a half, depending on what the weather does to us, but I think it'll turn everybody around over there where we've got the leaks that are solved, some of the issues on the outside building, the parking of the ambulance rigs and everything there.
So, Mr. Lewandowski, I just want to be sure the public knows we're talking about the renovation to the Cool Spring EMS.
Yeah, Cool Spring EMS.
Cool Spring EMS. Okay.
Yeah, it's been in need for quite a long time, and we're finally at a point where we're getting something done there.
Good.
Okay. And it's been, I want to say, it's been with a lot of help from the EMS department and everything. I mean, everybody's put together a lot of resources there to make this happen. And without everybody working together, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Great.
Rolling Prairie. Now, I know Roaring Prairie, it's come up as a big issue. We've started working on some drawings and stuff. What I'd like to reach out to you and possibly maybe we can get a workshop together, the Commissioners Council and everybody get together. Maybe we can look everything over, discuss it, and so we know which way we'd like to move forward at this process with it.
I think that's a great
That's a
idea.
good
Let's
idea,
get
yeah.
let's get that scheduled.
Okay.
So, Diane, can we make sure that happens? Yeah. Yeah, we want to make sure everyone's on the same page and that we're moving forward. And I think your point about collaboration is really well taken. And this is a project that requires a lot of collaboration between EMS, your department, the county council, the commissioners. So let's, and our IT department. So let's make sure that happens.
Everybody, I mean, in all these projects, you know, the IT department, EMS, everybody has worked together to make it so that it works within what we can, what our budgets are and everything. Everybody has worked together very good with this.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, much appreciated. Any other department heads who wish to speak at this time?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lauren Mossman from Human Resources.
Good morning.
Morning, Bob Young, County Highway.
Bob and I are here today to address the comments that were made at your last meeting regarding a county employee. And I just thought it was important to note that when we do hire in equipment operators, there are certain requirements that are on the job description. One of those requirements is that that employee or that person come in with a current valid commercial driver's license, and that can either be a Class A or Class B CDL license. Along with that license, they also have to have a physical through the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and that license or that physical must be obtained and maintained while they maintain their license. The doctor that does do the medical certifications for that has to be on the registry for the commercial Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and that the physical is valid then for up to 24 months. If the doctor feels that there's a medical condition that needs to be taken into consideration, that license or the physical then can be monitored at up to 1 year then. So, but it is valid up to 24 months. Ms. McCleary did mention that she had concerns with regards to our employee and their ability to drive county equipment. We did conduct a review of the employee's file. Excuse me. And Human Resources is entrusted with maintaining confidentiality of employees' files and their information. So what I would like to say is that review did not yield any deficiencies where the employee was not able to drive any county vehicles. I believe the Highway Department does maintain a list of CDLs and those physicals, and that is reviewed on an annual basis to ensure that they have all the necessary information in their files and our employees are up to date with all those certifications. If an employee is off on a leave of absence and does come back to work, we need to have that doctor's note stating if there's any restrictions for that employee or that they are cleared for full duty. If there's restrictions, then it's up to the department then to determine if they're able to work within those restrictions.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
did you have any comments with regards to that?
I'd just like to add that what Barb said, that there's nothing in this individual's file that indicates he was ever not fit for duty. Physical, physicians' evidence and reports. And we do keep close watch on their CDL driver's license for expiration and make sure they get in timely, get them renewed, as well as the employee themselves are notified by the state a few weeks ahead of time when their physical is about to expire, so we also keep an eye on that.
What is the renewal period for CDLs? Is it 2 years or?
Every 2 years.
2 years, unless there's a condition that requires more frequent.
Okay.
Yeah. So other than that, I don't have much more to add. That we
Well,
do
thank you. Do you have any
keep track of
questions?
that pretty closely.
You know, I just wanted to ask, in this recent case, to the best of your knowledge, was the fault our employee's fault, or is it the other person's fault when this accident happened, or you don't know yet?
It's kind of unclear on the accident report. It just shows an illustration where this gentleman kind of just walked in front of the truck as the truck was in the middle of the intersection. So I don't think there's anything on the report that indicated fault either way.
Okay.
And that's all we got. I mean, there's nothing else
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks so much. Appreciate your time. Any other department heads who wish to speak at this time?
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr.
Bob
Cutler.
LaPorte County Coroner. I want to share just a little information with you. Just take a moment. LaPorte County commissioners did sign a mutual aid agreement, an MOU, with other counties for if we have a mass fatality happening within our county. We started this over a year ago. Your commission signed it. We now have on board St. Joe, Kosciuszko, Fulton, Marshall, and possibly Elkhart counties. Their commissioners are all going to sign this mutual aid agreement. Basically what this is, if there's anything happens, mass fatality, all our counties are going to pool all the resources. There will not be any charge to our county whatsoever. We're going to share equipment, we're going to share information, and this is going to happen on the Indiana Toll Road. It could happen on the South Shore. It could happen in Indiana State Prison, on Notre Dame campus. I mean, there's a lot of options here. We will come to their aid, and all these counties I listed will come to our aid. And all their commissioners signed this agreement, and I just want to let you know that we're reaching out to other counties in northern Indiana. And the ones that are on board are happy with it, and we're going to come out with in March, we're going to have we might say a photo op. All the counties are going to get together. You will be invited to be there. All the commissioners and county coroners within these counties are going to meet, and we're going to share this information. There's 92 counties in, of course, the state of Indiana. There's 92 coroners' offices also. And we're the only ones that have done anything like this. Indiana State Coroners Association is now going to adopt this. They're going to try and do this mutual aid agreement throughout the state of Indiana. And you guys are the pioneers, and we got it started through you in St. Joe County, and now it's branching out. So thank you for your help.
Madam President, I have a comment. As a former coroner, we used to do this kind of collaborative work in the past, but I think you have really formalized it now. And I think that's a good thing that you have been able to formalize it. And unfortunately, sometimes incidents do happen where we need to go and help each other, and it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, the old what if is out there, and we just all want to be prepared. Like I said, we're in contact with all the different counties, and especially equipment, and even the knowledge that some have that we may not have. So
and sometimes even the personnel. I mean, because you need personnel to go to each other's help. Yeah,
very much.
Yeah. Mr. Cutler, thank you for your leadership on this. It's a real example of how collaboration can make it work for everyone, and so we're delighted with your work on this.
You're welcome. And it's back on you too, because I came to you with just St. Joe County. We're the first two counties to do this, and now it's spreading all throughout the state. So thank you for your knowledge and help too.
Thanks so much. Any other department heads who wish to speak? Hello, Mr. Rodriguez.
Good morning, Commissioners. I will try to be very brief, and you may be touching base on in an update with regard to the Rural Broadband Task Force, but we're very fortunate to be hosting and supporting it's our second go-round at the submittal of grants, which require, most importantly, no local match, but we're fortunate to be supporting Comcast and Acme Communications, which are between the two applications just under $5 million of rural broadband high-speed internet access. So I thought given the timeliness, the state has changed up the method being used this go-round with the grants. The process is not the formal grant application. They switch it to where a letter of intent is issued and is due on February 6th. So both of these companies, through our continued communication with them, while they were disenchanted that they weren't successfully approved in the first go-round, they are both, and as a matter of fact, Comcast is adding one additional area to their application, and they've slightly expanded the territory in which they're applying for. So we're fortunate, very fortunate to have two private sector companies willing to attempt the process, and so we're supporting wholeheartedly. And I just thought it'd be timely to present to the commission, keeping you abreast of this application effort. It does not require, as I mentioned, there's no public sector financial support necessary, but it is a rigorous process, and this is, we thought that it would be defined as underserved, and the state stuck with its original unserved designation. So it's a complex process, one that these two companies feel they are in a position to make a stronger case this go round, and we're optimistic that they are invited to formally apply.
Great.
So we've done a tremendous push, and I appreciate all the department heads that have been assisting in the letters of support, gathering the necessary documentation. GIS and your office, specifically Diane, has done just a tremendous job of supporting the effort.
So I think what's interesting to note is that the attention we've put on rural broadband across LaPorte County is garnering really unexpected results from the for-profit sector. You know, we lit the spotlight on a problem, and rather it's not requiring public investment of tax dollars. It may be our time, maybe our technical expertise and technical assistance, but I find it really interesting. This is not the first of, I think, many projects that seem to be being generated by our focus and the expertise we've gathered around the problem of the digital divide for all LaPorte County residents, businesses, etc. So I think that's a remarkable byproduct of our efforts.
We're in the batter's box.
Yeah,
so
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Any other department heads who wish to speak at this time? Don't be shy now. All right, let's move on. We would like next a presentation for an agreement with FirstNet. Darlene Hale and Mr. Butcher.
We actually have Robert from AT&T here at FirstNet to, answer any questions that we may not be able to.
Okay.
But basically what this is, the state has a contract with AT&T, and this is an agreement to use their contract to be able to set up the portal. Currently, the county uses Verizon.
May I stop you just for a second? Just because this is the first time we've talked about this in the public forum, if we could give an overview of what the department is, what the problem is, and what the challenges are that we're trying to solve with this, and then we can go into the guts of the matter. If you could just frame the issues.
Yeah, I think, Madam President, I think that to shorten things, I think that he is going to, by the direction of Mr. Friedman, he's going to be here. He's going to answer all of those questions in a nutshell, so I don't have to do it, and then he has to do it again, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I would like an overview of what the issues are. We don't even know. The public doesn't. I know who you are, but the public doesn't know what department we're talking about and what the challenge, the problem is that we're going to be addressing. So if you could give us just a couple sentences, broad base, and then we'll get into the guts.
You want to do it? You want to do it?
Sure. So basically, what this is FirstNet is a contract with AT&T, and they were the only company that was issued that for cell service to be able to run FirstNet. And it's basically first responders, emergency services only are the only ones that can actually switch to the FirstNet plan, I guess, if you want to call it. Currently, the county uses Verizon for their cell service. We don't have a contract with Verizon. We can switch at any time. But this is not for all-inclusive for the county. So the ones, the regular department heads or elected officials can keep Verizon. This only pertains to emergency services, EMS, EMA. I believe the sheriff's office is also looking at this. And it will basically, in the future, you will be able to talk on the radio through your phone. It'll connect through the 800 megahertz stuff. So,
Darlene, I wanted to ask you, now we have Verizon, which we are using, and we want to go to FirstNet. What does FirstNet do that Verizon doesn't do that we are trying to go with FirstNet for emergency response?
It'll connect to the 800 megahertz.
That's the main thing. Connection to the 800 megahertz is the key technical factor.
Yep.
Okay.
And we have had products, they were, generous enough to let us test some of their products. So I had a phone and a puck. It's basically a MiFi. But I gave the MiFi to one of the EMS captains, and he actually went throughout the county and tested it, and he was, very impressed with the coverage. And I believe EMA has tested both the phone and the MiFis. We didn't test the phone because it's really hard to get somebody to answer a phone that they don't recognize the number. So the MiFi was the big thing that, we tested. So if you want to talk about the phone service, I mean, it's unthrottled.
I think the biggest thing for my office is to try and keep emergency services ahead of what the current standards are. Eventually, just like 800, we knew 800 VHF was going to phase. It did phase in this area. FirstNet is something, take the boat race where we got 20,000 people on the beach. Or say that there's a school shooting or something and cell service gets bogged down. Emergency services is not going to be bogged down with this particular product. That's why this product is important to my office, not because I can make the regular phone call, but because in the event that there is a large event or we have planned events where there's a lot of people and a cell service gets bogged down, we don't get bogged down anymore. So that's the main purpose for me, and it's only for emergency services, not for the general public.
If I could add too, I'm Eric with EMS. All of our data for EMS is 100% cellular or Wi-Fi. So all of our ambulances, all of our support vehicles have modems that function off the Verizon network now. But 2 weeks ago, we had a major outage. All of our tablets for patient care reporting and our cardiac monitors to transmit to the hospital are all cellular. When those went down, we lost everything. So we could not send our EKGs to the hospital. We couldn't create the point of care report. We had to wait and do it old school back at the station. So that's what really prompted us to take a hard look at this and say, when our Captain Jeff Kuhn looked at it, he put his Verizon phone and the AT&T demo side by side to compare coverages, and there was no comparison. AT&T was much better for what we're going to use it for county-wide. There may be pockets that are better one than the other, but generally speaking, county-wide, AT&T provided us with more coverage, less interruption, so that we don't run into that kind of thing again. If we're trying to transmit a STEMI EKG to the hospital, time is of the essence, and when we can't do that, it really hurts patient outcomes. So that's why we looked really hard at it and feel that it's the best move for our service.
And just so you guys know, one of the things that I did when this came about was my first thing was to consult with IT because she runs, our cell phone, and let her investigate it, let her do the testing and things like that. So it comes, of course, recommended by our IT department as well.
So one of you mentioned, I guess, Eric, your department, and who Sheriff's is looking at it. Shouldn't we wait until everyone's bundled for the best rates?
He can talk to you about the rates.
I don't think our rates change.
It's actually a great question. The rates have been negotiated with the state. So with this agreement that we're asking for you to sign as a participation agreement to give you the ability to purchase off the state contract, but more importantly, to be able to take advantage of what that FirstNet network is. And just again to reiterate what they're mentioning is currently you're on a commercial wireless network, and AT&T is also a commercial wireless network. FirstNet is not. It is a dedicated first responder network that has additional benefits to it. It's a more secure, more robust network, and more importantly, it has additional frequencies to it. Governor Holcomb opted into FirstNet in November of 2017, and this is a program that's being rolled out nationwide and also throughout the state. They also mentioned that we are working on your 800 radio systems, or your P25. Currently, IPSC is testing that, and you'll be able to, on your cell phone, be able to communicate via voice, via data, and also be able to pick up your radio channels on that device. The biggest component to this, just for clarification, is with FirstNet, we give you priority and preemptive services. All wireless carriers have a form of priority, but only FirstNet has a preemptive service. And basically what preemptive does is it basically puts you at the top of the heap and always keeps you there. So all of your voice, all your data, all your messaging will always be available to a first responder, where consumer traffic would probably have some challenges. A good example is you think about some of the sporting events that happen around here, whether it be high school football, whether that's you're going over to a Notre Dame game. Trying to use a phone can be challenging. FirstNet you will not see that challenge.
Okay.
So, any other questions I can try to clarify or answer?
So, State of Indiana State Police use this FirstNet?
They are in the process.
And what about Marion County and St. Joe County and other? Well, who are your big customers, I guess I would say?
St. Joe County, I would say 90% of the county is. So the county, the Sheriff's Department, EMA, both South Bend Police and Fire, Mishawaka Police and Fire. Porter County EMA is also on FirstNet. Marion County is the same way. The Sheriff's Department is on. Emergency Management Services is on. The Health Department, the prosecutor's offices, the coroner for that matter, both police and fire in Indianapolis as well. So we can give references if you would like to have any of those conversations.
Okay.
And we're seeing it save lives and protecting our communities a little bit better.
Thank you.
Madam President, I have a question. What's the cost of this?
Okay, so basically we did get the rates from Robert, and they're in comparison with what we pay for Verizon. There really isn't much of a difference in the cost for the plans. Actually, I believe their phone plan, their smartphone plan, is maybe $10 cheaper than what we pay for Verizon. So there really isn't a huge cost for that.
So are you saying that since we are going to be using this service and for this, and since we're not going to be using Verizon for those services, it'll be a wash?
It's
so there's no net increase in cost then?
No, there should not be.
Okay.
And the other thing to remember is we are not looking to move all of LaPorte County cell phones to AT&T FirstNet. We are only going to entertain, and it would be up to the department heads or elected officials that would say, hey, we want to, they would have to be emergency services first. And then they would get be able to get onto the FirstNet contract or agreement. And it's all through the state QPA. So their prices on phones, we can currently take our phones, I believe, with us if they have band 14. If not, they will actually buy them back from us. And then we can get like an iPhone 10 for 99 cents. So it's a very minimal cost to be able to make that switch for the emergency services.
Yeah, that was my next question. Was equipment and how that you've answered those questions.
We did ask that.
So to summarize, basically there is no net increase in cost and is better connectivity for emergencies, and if they need some new equipment, then they'll provide for it. Yes. Is that a fair statement?
That is.
Okay. All right.
And basically we do have priority with Verizon, but not the priority that for emergency services. If you've been out at the fair, you know how hard it is to actually get a phone call out there.
Yeah. Before I make a motion for this, Mr. Friedman, is there anything we need to address from the...
No, I think, and you asked some very pertinent questions. I think because of the preferred provider agreement that the state has already gotten with them, they've kind of made the decision for you, and this simply gets us in the mix as as an applicant to be able to use the services already accessed and provided for by the state.
Right. I make a motion to go ahead and proceed with the FirstNet agreement.
I would second that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, under requests, we have considered permission for ALCO to approach the council to move equipment in the complex meeting room. Mike Dempsey, Access LaPorte County Director.
Morning,
Good morning.
Commissioners.
Good morning.
Mike Dempsey, Director of Operations for ALCO. talked this situation over with Darlene, and we would like permission to approach the county council to move Alco's equipment out of that little closet area and over to the side of the room. There's 3 different departments that have equipment in there, the court system, the IT department, and us. And it's just so small. When our technician has to sign into the computer, he has to put the keyboard on one knee and the mouse on the other knee just to sign in and everything. So there is some space right over here. Through the help of the IT department, we could just run cabling up over the ceiling tiles and drop down in there, and I can bring in our equipment. I have a electronics cabinet that we can put our equipment in, and I've talked to some council members, and they seem to be in favor of this.
Very good. What would be the cost of this relocation?
I don't see anything exceeding $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true for that, but at the same time, I want to be able to add additional speakers in this room to pick up some of the, areas that are not necessarily able to hear. I mean, this sound system is built for a courtroom, so the computer picks up everything. You can hear everything on the computer or the playback. But when you're sitting in certain areas, and if your neighbor is chatting, sometimes you can't hear what everybody on the panel is saying up there.
Right.
So at the same time, I want to look at maybe adding additional speakers. It wouldn't be a problem whether we put it, and this would be up to you guys, if you put it on the side of the room or if you put it back here in the corner somewhere. This would also give the guy, the gentleman in there that is doing the recording, the ability to see what's happening and make sure that what he's seeing on the screen is what everybody, really wants to see.
Right now, he has his back to the meeting, where he could have a bird's eye view from the side of the room. And like Darlene said, when we make that move, that would be a good time to improve the audio system.
So the improvement to the audio system would affect the quality of your work?
Yes.
Very good.
It would be better.
Madam President, I make a motion to have Mr. Dempsey approach the council to move the equipment.
I would support that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing that I would just like to mention, and I haven't had a chance to necessarily talk to Mr. Dempsey about this, but we've had some, suggestions that as long as it's going live, there'll be a green light someplace so that you can see it's going live and that there's not a problem. Or if it's for some reason got an issue, it would be a red light, type thing.
Or cut the mic.
Or an on-air sign.
Something, to let you guys
I was going to say the live mic issue is a problem. You have to manually remember to turn it on and turn it off.
Yes. And we could actually turn those on so they're always active through, the dip switches in the mic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was decided because everybody would be talking over top each other that we did not, leave those on.
Mr. Dempsey, before you leave, there have been some suggestions from our constituents that whatever programs are being recorded, they should be aired quickly rather than I believe there's a delay, a couple of days delay.
What Dr. Core and I were discussing before the meeting were some of the things that we get feedback. Your station's really popular, but when people don't want to wait for the regular programming that you have on the television, they like to go to the website and be able to hear a meeting really quickly after and sometimes it takes a day or two for it to load on your website.
Usually it's been 24 hours.
Yeah, so a request from us would be that you try to reduce that time. People are becoming increasingly accustomed to things being instantaneous with Facebook Live and all the other audio and video ways to get information. And so the delay, we're hearing feedback about the delay. They want to know what's happened, especially when there's some, today's meeting might not have a hot issue, but other meetings do. And people are very interested in getting their information. And as you know, with the other forms of media not being as robust as they once were, people are relying on your media source. And so that would just be a request that you see what you can do to tighten that time.
We can try, because our camera operators that are out in the field, they're the ones that when they get back to the control room, then they start editing and processing. That's why it normally takes the next day. but we can try to step it up a little bit.
By the way, I just also wanted to mention that there are a lot of people who watch this. I was pleasantly surprised how many people watch your channel. Yes,
we did set a record in 2019 of 77,000 views of meetings on our website.
Okay.
We're the second largest county in the state.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next on the agenda, consider permission for closure of one lane during the annual 5K, 10K Resurrection Run and Walk by the New Day Foundation. Kathy Dye, New Day Foundation, is she here?
No, she's not. Madam President, I make a motion to go ahead and grant this request.
The motion is on the table, but before, let's just talk about what the New Day Foundation is. This walk, it will be in Scipio Township Park on April 11th, and there's a couple roads that will be utilized. This is a traditional walk by the New Day Foundation, which is a ministry of the Door Village United Methodist Church, to raise money for local cancer patients. So we have a motion, and I would second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So thank you so much, New Day Foundation. Next on the agenda is consider the LaPorte County Convention and Visitor Bureau's Community Events Promotion Fund for $500 each. $500 to the LaPorte County Fair Pioneer Land, $500 to the PKD Foundation, Westville Tri-Kappa, Fish Lake Land Trust, and the Rumley Alice Chalmers LaPorte County LaPorte Heritage Center.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve all these requests.
Motion on the floor. I would second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on, consider permission to advertise for the rehabilitation of Bridge 77 and 78. Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Sullivan, County Engineer.
Good morning.
I'm asking permission to advertise for the rehabilitation of Bridge 77 and 78 in our inventory. Total cost, the council has approved the money. My estimates are between $225,000 and $250,000 a piece for the bridges.
Okay. And the money has been approved by the council?
Money has been approved by the council.
Okay.
Yes, it has.
I make a motion to go ahead and give permission to advertise.
I would support that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have some annual appointments or board appointments. So we'd like to consider appointments to the Community Correction Board, the LaPorte County Board of Health, LaPorte County Public Library Board, LaPorte County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the Shared Ethics Advisory Board.
Madam President, I have the following candidates for these boards. For the Community Corrections Board, it's Greg James. For the LaPorte County Board of Health, it's Dr. Georgetta Manning Cox. For the LaPorte County Public Library Board, Corey Campbell from Wanata. For the LaPorte County Convention and Visitors Bureau, we have Mike Seitz and Laura Krentz. And for the Shared Ethics Advisory Board, we have Barb Mossman. Madam President, I make a motion to approve all these appointments.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the appointments to the previous mentioned boards. I would second Dr. Cora's motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for those citizens who have stepped forward to volunteer to help us make sure our county runs well. Under old business...
Madam President, I just want to make one comment. Sure. There are some other individuals that expressed interest in serving on these boards. We also appreciate your interest, and we're going to keep those interest letters, and if something else comes up where your talents and time can be utilized, we'll consider doing that.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Cora. Under old business, consider the report from Attorney Laura Nuremberg regarding suggested data for public workshop on commercial vehicles.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, my name is Laura Nierenberg. As you know, we presented the ordinance on first read for commercial vehicles, specifically the weight restrictions and the frost law on January 15. If we have no objections, we would like to schedule the workshop, the meeting, so that all the public can come and discuss the pros, the cons, or any suggestions that they may have for Friday, February 21st, between the hours of 9 and 11. And of course, I can stay later if there's more people. I haven't heard a lot of comments yet, but it's still relatively new. There were a couple articles that ran to alert people or to increase awareness about the ordinance. So we're optimistic that we're going to get the group that we need, or the input that we need.
I wanted to ask you, Madam President, I wanted to ask Ms. Nierenberg, do you need elected officials to be present at this public workshop?
No.
Okay,
No,
this is for the public. Okay.
The sheriff will be there. I know the highway department. Deputy Elcock will be in attendance as well, and he has been so instrumental in all of this. His work has been extraordinary. And in fact, if I may approach, I would like to give each of you a copy of the flow chart that we put together.
Sure.
This helps to lay out each of the provisions. It's about 9 pages long. I think this will help people understand what's needed for each area. Brian, did you have anything you wanted to add?
So we have a suggestion for a time for a workshop. My only concern is that time is during the day, so people that are working citizens would have a hard time making a Friday morning from 9 to 11. But I guess I'd ask Mr. Friedman any suggestions on that.
I think Laura was attempting to work with the department heads who are going to be involved and certainly could be available. I think we could schedule at a different time, but I think she found in talking to the sheriff's deputies involved, the departments, that might work. It's also for stakeholders, any representatives of trucking firms that need to be involved. So I think that was part of what her thinking was. We'll want to also make a copy of the flow chart available at the Commissioner's office so anyone inquiring can understand about the permit process and what is being envisioned in the ordinance as well.
Okay. All right, so I think that's a really good point, but could we make sure that we, when we put out the notice for the public hearing, that we welcome written public comment and other types of input, so citizens who are not able to make it can send texts, notes, emails,
Please,
whatever?
feel free to give out my information, the email address and the phone number to the office. I'd be glad to respond to all those, and some people have already done that.
Okay, great.
So if they can't make it, we can certainly add the question. I have a running list of questions that we can discuss it during the meeting. I'd be glad to add anybody's interest to that list.
Yeah, and I think reading comments into the record is important. That makes the public feel that their thoughts are being heard.
Of course.
So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Madam President, does this need a motion?
If you would, that way you're setting a date on the record, also making sure that the flow chart is available at the Commissioner's office.
Yeah, I make a motion to set the date, and that's on February 21st from 9 to
21st, 9 to 11.
9 to 11. All right.
So we have a motion to approve the calling of a public hearing, stakeholders and public workshop on commercial vehicle ordinance, and that would be Friday, February 21st from 9 to 11, where citizens may be present as well as other stakeholders, or they may submit written comments or concerns, which will be read into the record. All those in favor signify by saying aye. I would second that, sorry. And then a call for the vote. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carries. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Next, under old business, report from liability agent of record on the Franklin Street Bridge property damage and report of payment. Mr. Jones.
Good morning.
Madam President, Dr. Cora.
Good morning.
I'm here to report specifically on a couple claims I think that are of interest to the Commission. First of all, I'm pleased to announce that the August 2nd accident of the Franklin Street Bridge, where the SUV was stuck within the gears of the bridge. We've got an offer for settlement there to the full limits of the driver's insurance of $100,000. In Indiana, you only need to have $25,000 in property damage to drive legally. So $100,000 is 2 tiers up from there. And normally, and Attorney Friedman can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the state of Indiana, normally most claims are settled for the limit of insurance that's carried. I did check to see if the at-fault driver who contested that, by the way, he still contends that he is not at fault. However,
how could that be? Sorry. We saw those photographs.
There were all kinds of back and forth, and I got to give credit to our claims processor, Stacy Green, from our office, because she's a real bulldog when it comes to this kind of stuff. And if you make enough phone calls, sometimes people don't want to hear from you anymore. So she was able to finally get a waiver sent to us to ask for a release in consideration of that $100,000 towards that damage. And I've got that here today. Attorney Friedman also has a copy of that. He does contend that he is not liable. However, we went direct with Erie Insurance, his carrier, and convinced them that he was.
Okay.
So we're happy to report that. We're asking that you consider signing that release so that we can call for that money.
I should note that notwithstanding the driver's contention, his own insurance company acknowledges fault. So
that's
right.
That's interesting.
There were a lot of reports that had to be sent and reviewed by Erie, including they contacted the Coast Guard, and it was an ongoing process. But a few months later, we feel like we've gotten what we asked for there.
Great.
So, just a quick question. I don't remember how much money we had to spend to do the repairs. Did it cover?
Not quite. No, not quite. There was a bundle, and I think President Matias probably knows there was a larger amount of money spent at the time that this happened, and the repair was needed.
Right.
The county council allotted some money, and I think it was near $1 million actually, to do a lot of upkeep on the bridge, and we attributed and asked the vendor at that time, the person making the repairs, to itemize out what he felt was the damage from
the accident, right? Because we were in the process of doing the repairs anyway.
Yes, and it was over $100,000, so we did not collect the full amount, but I feel like we've collected everything that we can.
We can, yeah. No, thank you for your efforts. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And if I may, second to that, I wanted to report that this is unusual. However, we had the same trucking company with the same insurance company strike two of our vehicles. One was a county highway truck, and one was a squad car. And it's highly unusual, but we have both of those with Great West Insurance Company. And I know you called for an update through Barb Mossman, the Human Resource Director, contacted me for an update on that, so I wanted to give you a real quick overview of that. We, in these matters, especially with EMS ambulances and squad cars and snowplows and the like, we do not wait to collect that money from the at-fault insurance carrier. We pay that, and then we subrogate. So that's in full subrogation now. That reimbursement for the truck to the highway department was $41,323, and that had been collected. And I think Mr. Young has already replaced that vehicle, or is in the process of replacing that vehicle. But we, as a standard, we do not wait. We get those vehicles back on the road right away, and then we subrogate.
Thank you.
I should note, too, I mean, not only is Stacy a bulldog, but so is John.
Yeah.
They're both very persistent and tenacious in recovering the taxpayer interest on behalf of the county.
No, thank you for all your efforts.
Yes, and Attorney Friedman, you'll notice on the release form that it lists LaPorte County Highway Department. Can that just be scratched? And
that's right. It needs to have the Board of Commissioners go ahead and execute that.
Okay. Thank you, John. And do tell Stacy that we appreciate her.
Thank you.
Her work on our behalf.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
No, thank
do
you.
we need any motion or
on that agreement? Let's go ahead and, if you would, provide a motion to execute. If you
Madam President, I make a motion to accept this report and the payment.
I would second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, John.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Appreciate it. Next, under new business, consider a resolution honoring the League of Women Voters. And I see a league member is here. Would you like to come up and give us a little introduction about what we're searching for? Let me see. Do we have a copy of this, Diane? I don't seem to have it. Or know where to. Pardon me? There it is. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Susan Webster, and I'm active with our local League of Women Voters, LaPorte County, and I'm also on the State of Indiana League of Women Voters Board. We appreciate very much that you are wanting to honor the League of Women Voters for our 100-year anniversary. We're 100 years strong. We are a nonpartisan organization. We promote political events. Our Vote 411 program is online every year, and we send out invitations to all candidates to fill out a Vote 411 form, and then we put it online for anyone, to read. We sponsor a lot of candidate forums. We sponsor numerous voter registration events every year, and we just want to promote the League of Women Voters, community involvement for everyone.
Thank you so much. Your organization does a stellar job every election cycle, and to note that it is bipartisan, so every candidate, regardless of party, gets equal coverage and ability to participate. So thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to read the resolution into the record. This is Resolution 2021, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of LaPorte County, Indiana, honoring the League of Women Voters on the 100th anniversary of their founding. Whereas the women's suffrage movement was organized in 1848 at the Seneca Falls Convention in New York State, and over the next 72 years, many women dedicated their very lives to this cause. And whereas on June 4th, 1919, the assembled Congress of the United States of America passed the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, prohibiting states and the federal government from denying the right to vote to citizens of the United States on the basis of sex, and submitted it to the states for ratification. And whereas the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified by the last of the necessary 36 states on August 18th, 1920, and was officially adopted on August 26th in the year 1920. And whereas the League of Women Voters was organized on February 14th, 1920, to educate and engage these newly enfranchised women. And whereas in the last 100 years, though through the sands of time and with the support of the League of Women Voters, women have made significant contributions to government and the real-life issues affected by government. And whereas the League of Women Voters has promoted participation by informed citizens at all levels of government and has helped shape public policy, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of LaPorte County, Indiana, honoring the League of Women Voters on the 100th anniversary of their founding.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion in support of this resolution, and I have a comment. All the years I've been involved in politics, I have really appreciated the role the League has played in keeping everybody involved and engaged, and also it's a bipartisan effort. And since we are in the process of working through this Vibrant Communities initiative, one of the things we are trying to promote through that initiative is civic engagement. And the League is really a perfect example of an organization that has promoted civic engagement, and I hope you'll continue to do that.
We certainly
Thank you.
will.
Thank you, Dr. Cora. So we have a motion, and I would second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So 1920 isn't that long ago when the girls in the room were allowed to vote. So thank you for all your hard work. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, consider Parenting Inside Out program at the Community Corrections Facility. Mr. Neary?
Good morning, Madam Commissioner and Dr. Cora.
Good morning.
Morning.
What we briefly are asking is we're requesting permission to implement a program called Parenting Inside and Out in our facility. The program is a nationally recognized program of cognitive behavioral therapy for individuals that would be in our facility. It's a 12-week program designed to assist participants in improving their interactions with their children. The cost of the program is $3,500, and that would be we would take that out of our commissary account in order to facilitate that program. If I may approach, I do have copies for you of that gives a little bit more information about the program. And Ms. Atwater, my assistant director of LaPorte County Community Corrections, she can speak further to the particular, if you have any particular questions about the program.
So is there a trainer within the department that will be providing this class, or how does this work?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Actually, there is training provided for 2 of our case managers. It is provided through the Pathfinder network that we would hold the agreement with for the Parenting Inside and Out. They are required to complete that training before they are certified as a parenting coach and then are able to implement PIO in our facility.
So they will then be providing the 6-week, or did you say 6-week course?
12-week.
12-week course. So they'll be the facilitators of the program.
They will be the facilitators of that 12-week program, yes.
Okay.
Right.
Great.
I think it's a great program, and hopefully that'll help them transform their life, and it'll have an impact on their families too.
We definitely think it will. Included in your packet is research, a program study, and also additional research that supports that Parenting Inside and Out has dramatically reduced recidivism for those that successfully complete the program. I believe those that complete the program have a 48% chance of not having a rearrest when you're out of the program, and for men it's 27%. So it would be a great addition not only to our facility but also to our partners that we work with, Problem Solving Court, Veterans Court, and Probation, who also utilize our programming for their participants as well.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve and support this program.
I would support that motion. Let's call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, so thank you. I think that's great to be able to use time well to educate folks, and especially around mental health issues. I think that's wonderful.
And I failed to mention, too, I didn't miss Amanda Knows, one of our counselors out in LaPorte Community Corrections, and is very involved with our programming out there as well, too.
Great.
So.
Welcome, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. The last item on the agenda we've already dealt with the Parks Department. So at this time, Commissioner's comment. Commissioner Cora.
Madam President, today I want to share some of my reflections about serving on this commission. Now, people ask me as to why I run for public office in spite of having a busy medical practice. And as many of you know, I immigrated from India and made LaPorte County my home. I have had the privilege of serving in various capacities to make our county and our community a better place to live, work, and raise our families. From time to time, we get a special moment when we serve. And I had that special moment last week, and that's the reason why I wanted to share that with all of you. And those special moments make it worthwhile and for us to serve in a public office, and it is gratifying. So this past week, when we got the $1 million grant from IEDC, that was a special moment. And that $1 million grant will help connect the LaPorte County rail spur, the $6 million rail spur at the KIP with the CSX main line. And I really felt gratified when this whole thing came through together. I want to take this opportunity to thank many of the individuals who helped make this happen, my fellow commissioners, county council members, members of the Redevelopment Commission, our economic development team with Matt Reardon and Tony Rodriguez, our state legislators, Representative Pressel and Senator Bohacek, our RDC attorney, Mr. Friedman. And I do want to mention that I had a nice meeting with the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Indiana, Mr. Jim Schellinger, in Chicago a few months ago, where I pressed on this issue. And with his help and with the help of our good friend Butch Morgan from South Bend, and also the cooperation of many of the IEDC officials and some of the private sector partners, this all came together. So I do agree, economic development of the community is indeed a team sport, and it is good to get some wins from time to time, and that's what I felt last week. Thank you, Madam President.
That's wonderful. Dr. Cora, thank you. The word team sport is cannot be understated. Economic development is really hard. It's hard work. A lot of it has to be done confidentially because you're working with for-profit companies. But this is an example of where everyone put their own issues aside and began to work together as a team. This has been years in the making, and I tend to watch social media and talk to a lot of people, and I know you do also. And we know that the KIP has been the subject of much community conversation, most of it not very positive. And I guess I want to call this out as a really huge positive move, because to bring rail into that park can help us with our redevelopment efforts. We've been kind of working on that and working on that and working on that. And it's hard to keep telling the public, yeah, we're working on it. Well, we have brought another $1 million of our tax dollars that go to Indianapolis and are coming back to LaPorte County. So that is a win for our team sport. And Team LaPorte County has done a great job on that. So thank you for your leadership on that, Dr. Cora.
Thank you.
Just a few updates. I wanted to bring up the website. We have had a bit of a delay, and not anything that I think we need to be concerned about, but we have changed our emails formats, so we're still moving emails. We've had 2 training sessions with our super users over the last 6 weeks, and then we're having a final design sit-down today with the launch date to be announced at the next meeting. And I want to call out that we thought we would get it done by the beginning of January. We have a few departments that had separate websites, and when they have seen the great work and the robust website that we're working on, they have decided to join us. So that adds a little bit of complexity we weren't anticipating. So what we want to be sure is that when the website comes online, it is robust, and it'll always be a work in progress, which is good, which means a website is rich if it's being changed and tweaked. But we want to make sure that it has the information that we promised our citizens. So the launch date will be announced at the next meeting. The Broadband Task Force will be meeting this Friday at Purdue Northwest in the LSF 170 room. It is a meeting that's open to the public. We'll be welcoming Pat McMahon from Choice Light on an update on how South Bend and St. John County deployed additional fiber to solve the digital divide work in their community. And we're learning from people who've started ahead of us, and I think it's great that we have the ability to learn from some of their mistakes, to be honest, because mistakes in fiber and in the digital world are expensive mistakes, which we want to avoid. So the task force Tony did a great job of updating us on the task force, but we're coming on along, and I think we're seeing some great improvements to our county. I wanted to mention that I appreciate everyone's good wishes on my recovery. I'm doing really well, so I wanted to thank people who have been sending me little notes, and it's just I was at a meeting yesterday wearing my Purdue Northwest hat, and one of the executives at the table was a newcomer to the region. And he said, "I've only been here 2 years, and well, what do you think about it?" And the room was surrounded by people, and he said, "Well, I haven't been to the beach yet." Well, everyone was like, "Huh." Then he said, "The nicest thing about this place?" He said, "I really don't get it here. It's kind of like flyover territory." He was a West Coaster and East Coaster. He said, "But the people here are really special." And you know what? That's what makes LaPorte County special. And what we're trying to capture in this collaborative spirit we're trying to focus on is that county employees are special people. We work for special people, and I think that's what separates LaPorte County from a lot of other places across America. So I just wanted to mention my thank you for your well wishes, and we've got some awesome people in LaPorte County. So with that,
on that high note, I'll make a motion.
Accepted. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.